We wanted to have Dov Ben Shimon, our CEO, kick our debrief off with just a couple of his thoughts, and appreciate him being here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. You've probably been reading the updates and receiving the updates from Federation, from myself as the exec, and from the daily missives that we're sending out, telling you what's going on in our community, what's going on in Israel. I don't want to belabor some of those points. I just want to give you a sense of where we are as a Jewish Community Federation and what we think the horizon looks like. I'm proud to tell you that we've raised over $28 million just from Greater Metro West as part of a National Jewish Federations of North America campaign for the Emergency Fund for Israel that's already raised in excess of $660 million. You can receive from Federation updates on how that money is slowly being allocated. We're now very much aware, having learned, unfortunately, as we all have from past crises and emergencies, that we want to be careful in how we allocate the money, seeing and testing the needs on the ground. We work with 65 local partner agencies on the ground in Israel today. And every couple of days, you can see my emails that I send out to the community. We show you the lists of these agencies and organizations, who is receiving what and for what purposes. Everything is being tested. And we also reserve some of the funds here in our community for our partners on the ground, especially in Merchavim, in Ofakim, in Kibbutz Erez, and in Chorfesh, especially as well. The priority for us here at home, before we go back to the Israel piece, is really threefold. It is to fight anti-Semitism, Jew hate, social media, and in real life on campus, to prepare our kids for campus in their 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, to make sure that the kids that we have on our 7 campuses in Greater Metro West, plus our state university of Rutgers, to make sure that these kids are protected, they are safe. We have to work hard to convince an administration, especially in Rutgers, that is not always where we need it to be, to do the right thing. We are nowhere near the end of that conversation. We are barely at the beginning of that conversation to make sure that Rutgers will do the right thing, to make sure that Jewish students feel safe and protected, and we will keep you updated on our progress. Let us say that it is not just going to be on the level of polite conversations, but we are bringing in the state legislature and the state senate in the next week to make sure that the use of tax funds in a place like a public university reflect the requirements of safety and security of the residents of New Jersey and their kids. So that's part one, is making sure that we are fighting anti-Semitism, we are fighting hate online and in real life. Part two is making sure that we have a strong, safe, and secure Jewish community. That means connecting with our Jewish Federation agencies and partners. Some of you saw we had a partnership breakfast this morning for our agencies and day schools to celebrate the centennial of our Jewish Federation. That's an investment in security, in our community security initiative, in our security training, in our programs to fight hate and teach about allyship and community solidarity together. And finally, the third element is, I think some of you who I saw yesterday at some of the different celebrations we had around the community, is to celebrate the joy of being Jewish. It's to celebrate Jewish pride. It's not to let terrorists win by staying at home fighting in our homes. It is to deliberately make the effort to form community experiences and make sure that we stand proud and stand together. I was interviewed this morning for PBS, and they said, what is the key message? Because they give you what's the soundbite you want to give? And the key message is, we can't stay at home. This is the time to show up. This is the time to show ourselves standing together. And this is the time to show what a vibrant, strong Jewish community looks like. All of that together also means standing up for Israel, standing with Israel, and being with Israel and in Israel as much as we can. We're limited by the number of flights and seats we can get on El Al and the number of times we can get and how much the field can absorb us. But I'm so deeply grateful for those of you that went last week that allowed us the joy of sharing in a virtual mission, which I hope we'll discuss the logistics of that, because it was absolutely stunning. It was breathtaking. And it was incredibly inspiring to see you on the ground and sharing those experiences with you. And on behalf of the community, I want to say thank you to Zev, thank you to Alex, somewhere maybe on the Zoom, I'm not sure. Cheers. and how grateful our community is for leaders such as you and for all of you who took part in this mission, to see you on the ground, to hear your experiences, to watch you real time, was just an uplifting and inspiring reminder of what partnership really looks like. Thank you.
And I want to just add one thing to what Dove said. We started, well, my work with Dove and Linda, who's with us today, at Rutgers, fighting anti-Semitism in a very collegial way, my work started 3 years ago with you. So it's not like this just started. We have been tackling this for many, many years. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my co-chair, Alex.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and Hanukkah Sameach. My name is Alex Feinstein, and I had the honor of co-chairing our Federation's 2023 Solidarity Mission to Israel. I serve as the chair of the Israel Programming Committee, which is one of the 3 committees of Global Connections, together with Julia Malaga, who chairs our Living Bridges Committee, and Faith Rackison, who chairs our Mishlacha Committee. We and all of you and many more here in our community and in Israel and in Cherkasy, Ukraine, we are Greater Metro West Global Connections.
Hanukkah Sameach. My name is Zev Sherrill. I want to thank you for all the love and support you are showing for Israel. First, the incredible financial support of our community, which has now reached $28 million committed to the emergency campaign. Our federation hit the ground running within 48 hours on October 7th to raise and allocate needed funds and be the very best fiduciaries we can be, with Craig Grosswald leading our undesignated emergency initiatives as well as our yearly allocations. But it is not just about the financial support. As you will hear and see today, it's about the relationships and very palpable trauma of our people. We implore you, please share our stories for the benefit of all Jews in the world. As we all know, the battle is not only on the streets in Israel, but also against misinformation, disinformation, and anti-Semitism on social media and in the public arena throughout the world. Michael Oren recently wrote, since we returned from our trip, the Jewish people of today are not those of the 1940s, for the simple reason that we have a state which is socially and militarily robust and able to field a reservist force of 360,000. We have a state which, even after its serial failures of October 7th, still offers the world's surest protection for Jews. But our state also serves as a magnet for Jew haters and the justification for dehumanizing Jews everywhere. The state that was created to ensure never again is being used to legitimize once more. In spite of Israel or because of Israel, either way, the mass dehumanization of Jews that produced the final solution is being widely replicated today. And we, the Jewish people, can neither afford to ignore it or leave ourselves unprepared. The ovens of Auschwitz are still warm and getting hotter. The vast conflagration we call the Holocaust was never fully extinguished. It burns, rather, beneath mounds of Jewish ashes, and amber ready to reignite.
After our participants share perspectives, we hope to have a few minutes for Q&A, and then we will close our program singing Hatikva. On Tuesday, November 28th, when we got off the plane, the very first images we saw when walking down the iconic hallway into passport control were pictures of the hundreds of hostages looking at us. The airport was eerily empty, other than the passengers on our flight and a few employees.
Without ever truly articulating our mission as a group, each and every member of our group showed up with a clear mission: to hug, to not just listen, but to also really support, to show deep love and above all, to let our brothers and sisters in Israel know that they are not and will never be alone. We wanted each and every Israeli we encountered to know that we stand proudly with Israel, and that especially when times are tough, we are truly one.
The 3 days of our solidarity mission were life-changing. We spent time with Global Connections friends many of us have known for years, participants of our Living Bridges programs, members of our steering committees, and many others. Sorry. These are people we had seen filled with smiles and energy in our prior encounters. But the reality is our brothers and sisters in Israel are continuing to experience palpable trauma every day.
Day one, a visit to Mitzvah Ramon, where our displaced partner community, Kibbutz Erez, is living in a youth hostel that is likely 30 years old and has never been updated. A youth hostel. We are all struck by their resilience shared in every story and encounter. We then visited Ofakim, a city that endured the horror of over 50 innocent people murdered. Many of them young adults who were defending their families. The horror stories continued in Merchavim, the regional council that surrounds Ofakim, where the mayor shared with us the extent of the damage caused by October 7th terror attacks. That day ended with a visit to a soldier relief support base put together entirely by a group of Israeli citizens to show IDF soldiers that their people love them. Everything there in that soldier relief tent is free. I mean, everything. As we were leaving, Alex, the leader of this initiative, showed us the latest donation he had received. 12 new washing machines and 6 portable electric showers, which get transported to Gaza every day for the soldiers to use and then come back to the relief base. You're on mute, Alex.
She should do it for her.
Someone had to do it for me. Sorry, everyone. The second day, we were able to witness firsthand the incredible work of our partner agencies, the Joint Distribution Committee and the Jewish Agency. Suffice it to say, the incredible depth of programs and support systems that are being leveraged across the country for all demographics is mind-blowing. And everybody recognized that we are early in our collective response. We also learned about the shocking number of people, in particular in Europe, who started the process to make Aliyah. Just to give you one example, the applications to make Aliyah from France is up by 400%. Some of the stories from that conversation we will leave for later, but we are so pleased that our partner agencies have been operating for decades before 2023 and are now positioned to deliver all they are stepping up for today and in the future.
Upon the hotel, we had 2 meetings. We had 2 meetings that we're going to share more with. Others are going to share reflections. One was with Noah, our Federation professional, and one was with the brother of a hostage. That afternoon conversation with the brother of a hostage was, well, I don't think any of us will ever forget it.
Our third and final day was the day we instantaneously became the immediate and nuclear family of a displaced bar mitzvah boy before going on to sponsor a relief barbecue on a makeshift IDF base. In just a few minutes, our friend Larry, or to many, Laser, had a personal mission throughout our trip, and that was to hug as many Israeli soldiers as possible. Laser's final count was 104 hugs before he left. For people like Laser and for all of us, the barbecue was the culmination of 3 days of truly being there as family, as unconditional supporters, and as Am Yisrael Chai.
We now want to share a short video that my co-chair Alex quickly put together. The video is just magnificent in its simplicity and expression. You will see nothing fancy in this video, just tight hugs, unconditional support, and unbridled love. We now welcome hearing from mission participants, starting with Stacy Friedman.
I need to bring all my accoutrement with me because I'm hoping that I'm gonna actually make it through this. So as Alex talked about on day 2, Wednesday, we went to the Jewish Agency. Never did I think that a visit to the Jewish Agency would wind up really impacting my life. But we met a woman who I would say is now a friend, and her name is Reut. And Reut told a story of her family. They live in Sderot, and how her husband was at work and they hid in their shelter. And I'm going to fast forward to just as they left finally the shelter after many, 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 many hours. She has 3 kids, 13, 10, and 1.5. And any of you who are parents in the room know how difficult it is to keep a 1.5-year-old quiet for 10 minutes, never mind 18 hours. So they left. They were going to Jerusalem, which is where her mother lived, and they were gonna relocate there. Missile strike, windows blown out, airbags deployed, kids screaming. Fast forward to, as Alex referenced, his bar mitzvah was the next day of our trip. So day 3 of our trip, we were supposed to pick vegetables. Instead, we went to celebrate his bar mitzvah. The family took us in as if we were family of their own. They were so excited to see us. The hugs were overflowing. His grandmother was so excited. You know, this little boy, many of us have been through b'nai mitzvahs with our kids, and part of the celebration is being with their friends. And this little boy was, you know, by himself with his small amount of family and us, who took him under our wing. And as we split into the women's section and the men's section, our wonderful men on the mission embraced, wrapped tefillin, prayed, supported, cheered, and we women upstairs bonded. And we heard about the rough time that she's going through with the kids. And we hugged, and we told stories, and we laughed when her 1.5-year-old figured out how through the screen he could throw candy onto his brother and push it through the little holes. And we were told that no one wanted to talk about that day, that this day was supposed to be a day for simcha. However, Reut's mother could not help it. She kept telling us about all the struggle they had had and all the things that they had gone through, and how this moment was this beautiful culmination of all that they had been through. And how she was so proud that he had just started reading Torah the year before. And here he was holding a Torah, which was way bigger than he was. And you could see the joy in his face, and you could see the joy on their faces, but you could also see behind the eyes of the pain that brought them to that moment, to that simcha, and of the love that they had for strangers that heard a story and came to share and to be together. They all couldn't believe that we as Americans feel as deeply for them as we do. And for us, it was never a doubt that we were going to go. The minute we heard that it was his bar mitzvah the next day, Zeph was like, we are going. We are going to share this with them. Schedule be damned. Like, this is important. And it was important. It was the living embodiment of the resilience of the Israeli people, and how we have to continue no matter what. To Doug's point, we have to show up. We have to be proud. We have to do all the things that people in Israel right now cannot necessarily do, but are trying to do. We are their light. We are their spirit, And they know that everything that we are doing is to support them. So for me, it was one of the most meaningful things when I hugged Ritu when it was time to go. And she whispered in my ear, "Thank you so much for being here." They were blessed, but I have to be honest with you, it was us who was really blessed the most of all. So I want to thank Zeb and Alex for planning this mission and allowing us, and to Ben and Penny and Martine for really supporting us all. I think I can probably say for everyone the past few days, there's been a lot of processing and a lot of thinking and a lot of tears. So thank you for letting me share Ritu's story.
Thank you, Stacy. So we're going to go to Ben Hoffer on Zoom, and he is also going to ask him to weave in a little bit of Torah for us.
Thank you, Zev. Also want to take the opportunity to just thank both Zev and Alex, all the professionals who made this mission happen. Ever since October 7th happened, I knew I needed to be in Israel. I needed to be present. And one of the things to do, besides be with Reut and the other Israelis who we heard from and met with, was to meet with the soldiers, to go and hug soldiers and let them know that we're with them. We brought cards from children and just to give our support. And that was, in my mind, one of the core purposes of the mission. And we get to the first base. We actually had a couple experiences on different bases with different groups of Chayalim. And we get to the first one and we go over to these Chayalim, and we had just come off a very emotional experience where I would say we're as low as we could have been. I personally was devastated. I was extremely emotional. I tried to go over and offer words of consolation, the traditional words of consolation, to this young grieving widow, and I couldn't even get the words out. My wife was telling me, I was texting me how difficult it was. She said, call me. I said, I can't talk. There's no point to call. And then we go outside to this base, and we're meeting with these soldiers, and we go over to thank them. And they said, hey, you came here to thank us? And I said, yeah. We wanted to, you know how much we appreciate everything you're doing. And their response was like eye-opening. I said, I mean, thank you, sure, you're welcome, but thank you. We appreciate you coming. The fact you took time away from your family, from your work, you flew into a war zone to come thank us. We're good. We know what we're doing. We know who our enemy is. We know how to defeat it. And we have a unified focus to do so. We're worried about you. You are in America fighting anti-Semitism that our people haven't seen in a generation or two. And they're worried about us. It was amazing that these people are going into Gaza, coming back day in and day out. Even during the ceasefire, they were going back and forth, providing logistics, doing different things. And they're worried about us. And I think this really shows the two expressions of the last holidays that the Jewish people experience, right? So we are in Hanukkah right now. Hanukkah and Purim are the two final holidays that the Jewish people experienced. And they're actually two sides of the same coin. So Hanukkah, this holiday, is a celebration of the fact that the Greeks were trying to destroy our ability to be Jews. They were not trying to kill us. This was not an existential war for the lives of the Jewish people. They were okay with you living. They just didn't want you living as Jews. The entire game of dreidel is meant because when the kids would be learning Torah and they would come around and they weren't allowed to learn Torah, they would quickly put away the books and they would take out the dreidel and say, oh, we're just playing dreidel. And that's why we play dreidel today. And I played with my kids last night. Purim, on the other side of the coin, was not about being Jewish. They wanted to kill every man, woman, and child. Haman wanted to wipe us out from the face of the earth. And I feel like our people are kind of fighting both of these wars, both of these threats at the same time right now. Right in Israel, the Islamic fundamentalist extremists, they want to wipe every Jew from the river to the sea off the map. Here, the anti-Semitism, they're trying to push us in our homes. Don't have a menorah. Don't have a mezuzah. Don't have a "We Stand with Israel" sign. What you do in your home, that's your business. but they don't want outward signs of Judaism. There's a pressure. I just did an interview, I guess, just like Dove that I did with New Jersey News 12, and they said, "How are you observing Hanukkah differently this year?" I said, "Well, I have a bigger menorah. I don't put a smaller menorah out. I put a bigger menorah. I put more light. This is the festival of light, and there's a funny thing about light. You could have the same candle shining the same light, and if the lights are on in the room, the other lights are the light that comes from that candle just isn't super impactful because you got the lights from the room. However, the darker the room gets, the light that emanates from that one candle becomes more and more impactful. And I think we are all living increasingly in a darker and darker world. We are feeling the darkness surround us, threaten us, and sometimes almost consume us. And it's in this reality, in this darkness, that our light becomes even more impactful than ever. So I implore you to light your menorah, light it proud. To those who feel they have to take down their mezuzah from the door, please, I implore you not to. We must stand proud. We must maintain our outward Jewish identity and not allow the haters out there, the anti-Semites, to push us into the closet. Because if we do so, like Dov was saying, then they win. So I just want to again thank everybody for making this mission happen, even the people who were on the virtual mission. We know you were with us. When we hugged the soldiers, we told them, you're not hugging one person. There's 1,000 people standing behind each and every one of us. And there's a huge community in America that's supporting you, that's thinking about you, that's losing sleep over you, praying for you, doing acts of kindness in your merit. And I'll tell you, I came back Sunday. We were at a concert. They had a station for kids to make cards. There were leftover cards. My daughter took the entire stack and went home, and she made 25 different cards that have already been delivered to Israel yesterday. So please do not underestimate what your cards, what your support means. If you have the opportunity to go on a mission, I encourage you to do so. There is no substitute for being present in the land of Israel right now for our people. It really does mean the world. So thank you.
So before we go to Scott, we're going to try the video again now that we have a professional with us.
אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. ברך את מדינת ישראל, ראשית צמיחת גאולתנו, הגן עליה בעברת חסדך, ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. ושלח אורך ועמיתך לראשיה שריה ליועציה ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך, ותקנם בעצה טובה מלפניך. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו. אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו.
Round of applause for Alex. We're now going to go to Scott Krieger on Zoom.
Thank you, Zev. I've been a volunteer with the Federation for approximately 40 years. I've had the honor and the blessings to hold several positions in Federation during that time. I'm a past president, as well as whatever else I've done. And during that time, I've had the honor many times and the life experiences to travel on with missions, several of them, approximately 15 to Israel. In those missions, for all my missions to Israel, I have never felt more pride in being Jewish and being connected to our partner communities and Klal Yisrael as I did last week. In the middle of the first day, we arrived at one of our sister communities, Ofakim. We had lunch there, and as was our experience, the entire time we were on the ground, everybody was incredibly welcoming. We had a joyous lunch. We met community leadership, and we met several soldiers who were in the next room from where we ate. And again, as people have been saying about the soldiers, you know, they were upbeat. They welcomed us. We hugged them all, hugged them tightly, wished them well. They thanked us. And we got up and we walked a few blocks to a neighborhood in Ofakim and saw some of the buildings, some which were not occupied at that time. One in particular, where we stopped, was a two-story residence. There was a window on the side of the building facing the street that the window was shot out. It was just a dark square hole, and surrounding the window were countless bullet holes. I took a few steps away from the group. I backed up. I wanted to get a little bit more of a panoramic picture. And I was standing on the sidewalk when a vehicle came down the sidewalk at a fairly rapid speed, and it was occupied by three young men. The vehicle looked like something you might see driving down a beach. I don't remember if it was, I think it was a four-wheeler, but there were two young men in the front, one in the back. And they were, as they came toward me where our group was, they slowed down. They were laughing. I think they were all smoking cigarettes. In my view, in my opinion, they seemed to me to be giddy enough that I thought they might have been inebriated or some other influence that was affecting them. And the fellow in the back seat turned to me, and he looked at the group as he turned to me, and he said, he kind of pumped his fist, and with the most sinister smile that I could imagine seeing on someone's face, he said, "Am Yisrael Chai," and they all started laughing. And had they not taken off, I probably would have responded with something that would have potentially gotten me in a lot of trouble with these fellas. The hatred is out there. We know about it. It's worldwide. But to be there in Israel and to connect again with our cousins is just an experience that everyone should have. The last thing I want to mention also was last piece. We had the opportunity also to visit a couple of the buildings in this neighborhood that were more multifamily, and we went into a safe room. And this is, the room where the people from the edifice would go when they were trying, and they would go into the safe room hoping to be sheltered from an attack within the building of terrorists. And these rooms, and so they were not expected. You know, if somebody came in, they couldn't find people. The idea was that they would be leaving. So these safe rooms were considered to be utilized for 2 to 4 hours. I don't think the room was more than 8 to 10 feet wide max, and maybe 20 feet long. It was cement. I mean, it was nothing that was welcoming. It was just a place where they could be safe. But to be there in 2 to 4 hours, there were no facilities. There was nothing, and they had to stand there and wonder what was going on around them. But it would keep them removed from others. If God forbid there was a direct hit on the building from a missile, it could have collapsed around them. So I can't imagine that being in the safe room like that was totally free, was totally terror-free within their own minds. And again, the spirit that we saw is a reminder, and what we witnessed this mission, I will never forget for as long as I live. I'm thankful for the opportunity to go there. I'm thankful to Zev and Alex for sharing this and the great job that they did, and all our mission, like my co-participants in the mission, and certainly our wonderful professionals as always. And I thank you all for giving me these couple of minutes to speak a little bit.
Thank you. Stephen Burns. Yeah.
So just to add my thanks to Martine, Ben, Penny, all the professionals at Metro West, but also to Alex and Zev for all that they did to make this possible. And the other thing I'd say is that the group of folks was approximately 14 people, plus the professionals we had on the ground. And I think it's often the case when you have a group, you know, you're trying to get something where 1 + 1 equals way more than 2. And certainly it was a force multiplier. And, you know, I think you can tell from Zev and Alex's leadership, along with the professionals from Metro West, it really was, you know, they set us up for really an experience that was second to none for us. But I think it was unique. It was universal that all of us wanted to be of service to the folks that we met, and not to have them be of service to us. So I think it's really important to know that everything we did do was really about, like, how can we be of service, and the spontaneity of, hey, let's do this, or, you know, to the bar mitzvah, and some of the other activities that we I'll say events that we had was very special. The last event of the day on Thursday, which was the final day we were there before we went to a dinner, was to travel down south to, I wouldn't even call it a base. I would just call it a location, about 25 kilometers from Gaza, where we met with a group of IDF soldiers, about 160 soldiers. They were, as one person said, one of the soldiers, they're a more mature group in terms of age. So there were not a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, but there were, you know, people who had families. And the first person I saw when we got there was a man who was higher in the command of the unit. He had his 3 daughters there. It was his youngest daughter's 11th birthday, and his wife was there. They 11, 14, and 16-year-old. And you can imagine, or maybe not, I couldn't imagine what it was like for them to be on this base. To they were there just for the day, the kids, and very special, not just for them. They're like, the 16-year-old's like, what are you guys doing here? Like, you know, like, what would compel you to come to this place? And I said to her, I said, you know, well, we were compelled to come here because we want to be of service. Okay, so we brought things to Israel, but more importantly, we want to be here to show our support. And thanks to Alex and others, we were able to sponsor and fund a barbecue that day. I asked one of the soldiers that I was sitting with, you know, what do they eat when they don't get this type of lunch? And he said, well, it's edible, but just barely. And so so there was a lot of joy. One of the things I think is important is we, we help cook, we help serve, we spent time with them. There was a band truck there that day. And, when I looked at the pictures, there's a lot of smiles, you see all these smiles, but I don't think you can underestimate the trauma, the pain, the, really the collective trauma that they are experiencing, as Stacy said about the bomb that hit where the airbags went off. When somebody tells that story and you're in the room and they're talking about it, and you then hear that the child can't go to the car without screaming going forward, there's collective trauma. I sat next to a trauma counselor often in the trip, and she is, there was one picture I have that wasn't in the video, where it's clear that the trauma counselors are traumatized, okay? And so what we were able to do, I think, was provide a momentary respite from that, those events, but we should not underestimate what's going to be required going forward. And so I feel privileged and grateful to have been a participant in this. It felt as good as it felt. It still didn't feel like enough, and so look forward to doing more. And once again, I want to thank all that made this possible. And it was definitely a trip of a lifetime, as Scott said.
We're going to go to my newest friend, Keith Savell, my very newest friend in the world.
Right.
Thank you, Zev. First, I want to thank everybody that made this trip possible. It was just unbelievable being there and supporting Israel and being part of a group of people. I made a last-minute decision based on talking with Steve Burns after a Shabbat service that he told me about the trip, and I thought about it. The next day, I said, "Hey, is there room?" And we connected with Zev, and he said, "Sure, come along," which was great. It was fantastic. There were so many things going on in the 3 days we were there. I don't think I slept more than an hour a night. I just couldn't turn my mind off. Horrific stories of what the terrorists did, how brutal it was, what these people lived through. The brother of a hostage and his, a heartbreaking story about his brother and what a wonderful guy he was helping people. And, it was just, I couldn't turn off my mind. One thing that I thought was interesting, I mean, I could talk about so many different things, but we went to a hotel in Jerusalem where one of these kibbutzes as a community were staying. And we ended up talking to some young people that were part of a group that was helping other young people going through this trauma. And we sat in a group. I think Alex was in the group with me. I think Stacy too, but it was an 18-year-old young woman talking about what she was doing. And then she was saying how she's taken a gap year and was living with some Americans. And she said sometimes the Americans come there and they don't see Israel. Sometimes they're complaining about, Israel and its treatment of, Palestinians, and some were even, kind of downplaying what Hamas did. And we asked her, well, how do you respond to that? What do you say? And she said something very interesting. She said, I just try to tell them what I know. I don't tell them, I'm here to convince you of something else. I'm just telling you what I know. And I've talked to a lot of people since I've been back, and I'm saying, listen, I can't change your mind. I can just tell you what I know and what I believe and what I saw. And what I saw in Israel was a country that, went through terrible trauma. It was horrific what the terrorists did there. They're just heartbroken, everybody there. But also the resolve of the IDF to destroy Hamas. And unlike the terrorists that came into Israel, they were celebrating. They were celebrating what was the massacre they were doing. There's no one in Israel celebrating that they're in Gaza. They don't want to be there, but they know they have to destroy Hamas, and that's what the IDF is. Their purpose. They are single-minded. They will destroy Hamas, as they should, because they can't live with them as their neighbor. And that's the feeling I got. It was a tremendous trip. get to see and feel what people are going through there was amazing. So thank you for letting me come.
Thank you. Next up, the man of 104 hugs. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say that after being on that trip for 3 days, I felt more proud to be Jewish than ever before. And I felt pretty proud before, but it even went to so just a very quick personal story. About 11 or 12 years ago, my younger daughter, Gloria, was at Golda Ak, and she was involved in a global connections program. Where we housed a girl named Tomer. She lived down in Ofakim, and we housed her for a couple of weeks. And we developed a really meaningful relationship with Tomer that has lasted over a decade. So whenever we're in Israel, we get together with her. In 2018, when I was on the Federation mission, we took the train down there. If you remember, get off the train. There's Tomer's mother waiting to welcome us. When Tomer is in the United States, she'll spend time here. She'll use her apartment. We really developed a very, very meaningful relationship. When Gloria's in Israel, again, they'll go hiking together. And for us, we don't have family in Israel. So it's really, really exciting to have a relationship with someone there. So Tomer got married last year. And on October 8th, her husband, who was an IDF soldier, was murdered. And she came and told us a story. It was gut-wrenching, it was emotional. And the way she ended the story is she said, my husband didn't want to hurt anyone. He loved Israel. He cared about Israel, and she was proud of him. And it just was a very, very emotional. It was emotional in general, but also having that personal relationship just took it to another level. So I don't mean to end on that note, but again, I'll end with what I started with, is looking back, it made me feel more proud than ever to be Jewish, seeing the way the IDF soldiers, every single time we said thank you, the first thing they did is, no, thank you. And I felt like a little silly, like these guys are bringing on the front lines and then thanking us. And the second thing that made me feel proud was meeting with these agencies. And people don't talk about it a lot, but there's 200,000 Israelis that had to be relocated. And when you look at what the Jewish Agency and the other groups are doing to house them, to get the kids in school, to help them psychologically, it was incredibly inspirational. So thank you.
So before we move on to what's next, we also wanted to discuss our meeting with our professional Noah in Israel, who on October 7th was 9 months pregnant, and her husband was shot by terrorists while he was in his car. And not knowing if her husband would survive, she had to endure the terrorists walking around her house and banging on locked doors and windows of the shelter. Her husband was luckily rescued by a kibbutz member, and after 18 insufferable hours, Noah was able to escape and go to a hospital. She told her husband, and I'll never forget the words she said, they are not allowed to kill you. The only person that can kill you is me. That was it, and he got it. He heard it. Right. She really said that. And she's got a great, like, so personable. He is now 4 surgeries in. He has a 5th surgery, and they say he's going to be fine. And she brought her beautiful, beautiful son, Roe, and she was able to escape. And it was incredible, just because we've known her for years, and just to hear her story was unbelievable. So we're now just going to move on and move to what now? What can we do with all this information? And with that, we want to welcome Linda Scherzer, Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Metro West. to share a few words. And then we're also going to have Martine Yaffe, Director of Global Connections, share a few words.
Thank you, Zev. Hello, everyone. I have to start by saying that having followed this mission on the WhatsApp thread, like so many others in the community, and by the way, I wish I could take credit for that idea, but kol hakavod to the person who came up with it, because I think it was brilliant. That was Zev? Okay, well, just so everyone knows, Zev came out of JCRC. So I do take a little pride and credit for the leader that sits before you now. But I want to say that I really thought that I had heard and seen almost everything in close to real time on that WhatsApp thread. But I sit before you incredibly moved and inspired by everything that I've heard, which today, which truly is going to help inform my work. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, Linda Scherzer, the director of the JCRC, the Government Affairs, Israel Advocacy, Community Relations Building Wing of the Federation. Zev and Martine asked me to say a few words about what is next, because it's you can't come back from an experience like this one or have watched it on WhatsApp or to be as plugged in and as connected as you are watching events unfold and be as committed as you are without actively engaging here. And that's what is on me, my department, and the professionals who engage in this work. So let me give you a few ideas of things that you can do going forward. First, I was one of six lay leaders and professionals who attended that United Nations hearing on Monday, exploring the depraved and barbaric sexual assaults against women. I'm not going to go into it now because you can read about it on the blog piece that I wrote that was just posted on the Federation update today. You probably haven't seen it because it just came down a couple of hours ago. But what we heard cannot be unheard. I mean, these were acts of sexual violence unheard of in modern times. And the documented evidence and the testimonies were wrenching, they were chilling, and it's not enough just to listen. The people who need to be called out, frankly, are the international women's organizations, the human rights organizations that have been silent, absolutely silent, that has compounded the grief and trauma of the victims and their families. So at the bottom of that blog, you will see the call to action. You will see the contact information for the executive director of UN Women. You'll see sample letters that you can copy and paste. And we absolutely must be doing that and be calling these people out and demanding justice for these women and for their families. And may I also add, there are women that are still being held hostage, and we can only imagine what is happening to them in captivity. Second, we need to be calling our members of Congress. If you aren't already doing that, I would also single out Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, who has been a strong advocate for Israel and a strong supporter of our Jewish community, but whose statements in recent days have been somewhat confusing. She needs to hear from us. I am putting in the chat, actually, a wonderful resource that is put out by JFNA every single week. It's the Community Mobilization Center. It has all of the contact information for our members of Congress. It has toolkits and action alerts and ways that you can roll up your sleeves and great information. And if you're not already registered for that, you need to be, because that comes into your inbox every single week. Third, Rutgers, you heard from Dov Ben Shimon earlier. We have been actively engaged with with Rutgers, with Rutgers Newark, with the Center for Race, Security and Rights, or Security, Race and Rights, which is a horrible center advocating anti-Israel propaganda, unbelievably antagonistic to Israel. We have been calling on President Holloway to call this out, to stand with Jewish students, to condemn anti-Semitism. We saw what we saw on Capitol Hill a couple of days ago with the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania. In the days ahead, we expect that these hearings are going to be held in state on different campuses, exploring anti-Semitism at colleges and universities in the state of New Jersey. Those of you who may have a special relationship to Rutgers, who may have a special connection to President Holloway or to certain deans, or who may be significant donors, or who may know of significant donors to Rutgers, I would be very thankful if you would get in touch with me, because we're trying to curate that list and to know that we have certain people who have special influence on that campus, and so please do reach out to me. Fourth, on Sunday, this Sunday, JCRC is sponsoring an interfaith Festival of Lights, an interfaith holiday celebration in Short Hills, not at TBJ, but at the Mormon Church in Short Hills. This is our second interfaith holiday celebration. It is incredibly important at this time, more than ever, that we deepen our relationships with our interfaith partners and allies. We have Hindus and Mormons and Chinese and Christians and Catholics coming to this celebration. I'm sad to say that the Muslim leader that was part of this last year will not be coming, but we need to create allies with those who continue to be our friends and supporters. And any of you who are interested in attending this event, which starts at 3 o'clock, will last about an hour and a half, will include sufganiyot and Christmas cookies, and light, are welcome to join. And yes, Lisa, that is on White Oak Ridge Road. Finally, I'm happy to say that actually this mission inspired me to create a mission which I think is of enormous importance, and that's going to be a mission of state legislators. We don't have the date, but we're looking at January 21st for a 48-hour mission on the ground that will bring state legislators, assemblymen, women, and senators from across the state of New Jersey to Israel for a 48-hour mission similar to the one that you experienced. So thank you for inspiring me to do that. What I can tell you is that if we pull that off, we're going to be doing exactly what you did, create that WhatsApp thread. If anyone knows of people who would be interested in joining such a mission, who have special relationships with our legislative members, please do get in touch with me. So again, Alex and Zev, thank you for your incredible leadership and for allowing me to be part of today's program.
Thank you, Linda. I can guarantee to everybody, Linda has not slept since October 7th. The work against anti-Semitism here is really becoming a key priority for all of our federation, and Linda is on top of that entire effort. So thank you, Linda, for everything that you're doing. My name is Martin Yaffe. For those that don't know me, I am the Director of Global Connections. I joined this incredible federation 4 months ago, so it has been trial by fire. And I am so proud for us to have in this group people in person and virtually exactly like we did on the mission to Israel. I think that's no coincidence. What can we do now that we're coming back in relation to Israel? That's the Department of Global Connections that we were talking about before. There are two big areas that I want to talk to you about very briefly. First, financially. Those that want to continue supporting, there are two ways to support financially. First, in response to the October 7th attack and the war, there is the emergency fund for Israel. We heard before about some of the safe houses in Ofakim that people were getting into. Those were in disrepair. We are helping fix 60 of those safe shelters in Ofakim. We are supporting families with food. We are providing hours and hours of therapy for those in trauma. So this is the fund for emergency that's going to our partner communities. The majority of the money that's going to the emergency fund is going to our partners on the ground, the Jewish Agency, the Joint Distribution Committee, who are doing God's work. We've heard about them before. It is incredible what they are doing. However, and we like to say this, and it's very important, we were able to respond the way we did on October 7th, 8th, and 9th because we were already there on October 6th and prior. The relationships that we have built with our partners in Israel and Ukraine and elsewhere are there because of the ongoing support that our federation has for these living bridges that we like to call our relationships and connections and grants and allocations to our partner communities. So for those who want to continue supporting our UJA annual campaign, that's what helps us. That's the bread and butter for the everyday support for our federation. That's the financial aspect. This is the time to step up for those who are able to. We really appreciate it. On a more tangible level, Global Connections is a department within our federation that works and deals with Israel. There are 3 core pillars, committees within Global Connections that we welcome people to be involved in one way or another. The first one is Living Bridges. Living Bridges is the area of Global Connections that builds those cohorts of partnerships and relationships between people in New Jersey and people in Israel, Ukraine, and elsewhere. These are the cohorts that actually learn together, meet in Israel, meet here in New Jersey, go to third countries, and build those connections so that when we go to Israel to give hugs, we know who we're hugging because we have been with them for years. There are programs for children, for teenagers, for young adults, for adults. Living Bridges really has opportunities for many of us to connect in an immersive way with our friends in Israel. Second, we have our Mishlachat. The Mishlachat is the committee or the area of Global Connections that welcomes right now 9 Israeli emissaries. 2 of them are adults who came with their families and spent 2 to 3 years with us, and 7 of them are young adults, pre-army, who are coming and being deployed throughout the entire community to bring Israel in a tangible, concrete way to our schools, our JCCs. So it's not only about maximizing the impact of our Mishlachat, our delegation, but also loving them, taking care of them, making sure that they have a family here, Shabbat dinners, and that we are a community to them when they're here spending their years with us. So those who care about people coming from Israel, this is an opportunity to actually help. Last but not least, the department, the committee chaired by Alex Feinstein, our co-chair for the mission, is our Israel Programming Committee. That's very important, probably now more important than ever. Bringing Israeli experiences, education, programs for youth, for adults, for the whole community, children in our day schools, but also children that are not in our day schools. Being able to reach out and offer experiences for people to engage with the people, the land, the culture and the history of Israel and our global partners is a core aspect of the work that we do. So whoever is interested in any of these aspects of Global Connections, I ask you, join us, perhaps in a committee, perhaps in an event. There are many ways to participate. So whether it's financially through these 2 options or in person, we would love to have you join us and be part of this incredible effort that our Federation has. Thank you very much. Ask everybody to stand, and in standing, we want to first thank the professionals again for just being so incredible. Thank you, Ben, for taking point on everything, logistics, getting there on the ground and returning. And thank you, Penny, for all of your insights along the way, and of course, Martine, for yours as well. And now we're going to ask Global Connections Chair Emeritus to come up, and Chair of the Global Connections Advisory Committee, Rebecca Gold, to lead us in Hatikvah.
My job now.
I'll let you live.
Okay. Thank you then so much.
You pick your
Thank
cake.
you, everybody who went on this mission. Pick my cake. Any cake. Oh,
I'm the Sion Sophia. Oh no,
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Shabbat shalom, Hanukkah Sameach, everybody. Thank you.